Hello, it's Carl Forehand from the Desert Sanctuary. Wanted to share with you a picture. My brother shares this picture. My brother Kenneth shares this picture every Memorial Day. It's a picture of my grandpa. He's in front of a Baptist church, I believe, and he's holding a baby, which is my dad. Both of my grandpa and my dad were both named Carl also. They don't have a middle name. I have a middle name, Joseph, after my other grandpa. But this is my grandpa holding my dad when he was home from his deployment, probably during World War II. Um, I believe my dad was born in 44, so I'm assuming it's when he's home on deployment from World War II. He was in some way serviced military aircraft and so on. Um, I knew my grandpa later in life. Um, of course, not in this time when my dad was a baby. Uh, my grandpa, to me, was a good reminder why I love and respect the military and this country, but I still despise violence and war vehemently. I don't see that as a conflict. I tried many times to talk to my grandpa about his service in the military. Um, I would I would kind of corner him and then say, "Tell me about the war," and he didn't want to talk about it. He never would let that subject be brought up. Um, I tried to get his uniforms after he died, and his wife told me that they had been donated to charity a long time ago, that he just really didn't even want the uniforms around. My grandpa was an honorable man. I remember he stood outside um, at his flagpole every day when they played taps at 5 p.m. or whenever that is. Very loyal, very faithful type of person. Uh, but he had a certain feeling uh, about his service to the country and about war and violence. I have a deep connection also with my grandpa that I can't adequately describe. I learned lessons from my father, like how to work hard and things like that. Some things I learned from my dad that I should do, and some things I learned from him that I shouldn't do. But it's different with my grandpa. Sometimes we call him Grandpa Forehand. That I would feel him like he was standing next to me. It's almost like he's guiding me, and he just helps me complete the picture of the message. You know that you can be honorable and you can be faithful to your country and do your duty, finish your service, but that violence never solved anything. Violence is never the ultimate answer. It may accomplish some things for the short term, but it leaves destruction in its wake and sometimes dooms survivors to a lifetime of struggle. So, in little subtle ways, my grandpa taught me and is continuing to teach me those lessons. He also continued on in his journey in religion and in life to continue to grow after his experience with the military and with being in World War II. Violence produces things like PTSD, unresolved trauma, and other forms of destruction. These are the natural byproducts of violence and war. While people clamor for Second Amendment rights, families try to put their lives back together, all the while politicians make excuses or try to divert issues to non-relevant facts. As we honor veterans like my grandpa and my uncle and people that have served in the military like my brother, we must also remember the residual pain and suffering left in the wake of the endless streams of war and now the long list of school shootings. Maybe it's time for us, and I think my grandpa would agree. I know I'm assuming a lot, but I think he would agree that we could sacrifice a small right like owning a certain weapon to save the lives of the children in the near future. It seems to me I have always been a person that um, hunted deer with a bow, because it seemed like cheating to me to use a rifle. I did at times use a black powder rifle and so on. I grew up with guns. I understand hunting and conservation and the need to protect yourself. But, enough's enough. There's limits. There's got to be limits to everything. And maybe it's time to sacrifice a small right like owning certain weapons to save the lives of children. Uh, we can't let fear get the better of us, or we'll just keep eliminating other human beings that we disagree with. It was fear of the Native Americans that caused us to wipe part of their population out and take over their land. It's fear of black people that caused Black Wall Street and the slaughter of a bunch of innocent people. Um, we can't let fear keep um, guiding us, that fear and control, or we're just going to keep having incidents, and we're going to keep going to war and more wars, or uh, the byproducts are things like school shootings that unintentionally happen. I know that guns don't kill people, but radicalized people with guns do. Someone said once, the things we do in moderation, our children do to excess. What we Will we have a safe full of guns that we control and moderate and don't use just at a whim, are 18 to 25-year-olds that have been radicalized by online media or something. Um, they do to excess. They're going to act reactively instead of responsibly. So, more often than not, in the history of our country, we Americans have been the ones that squeeze the trigger most often. It's Americans that are killing our school children, not the commies, not ISIS, not the Chinese. It's Americans that are, and more specifically, it's white Americans that are killing our school children. I can only guess, but I think my veteran grandfather would stand with me and say it's time for the violence to stop. Let's do whatever is necessary, even if it means we outlawed uh, automatic weapons like AR 15s and handguns for people under 25. How terrible would that be to do that? We may feel like we lost a big right that we had, but if it saved children, why not do it? Even if it means we lose a few friends when we take that stand, when we say, I want to take a stand, I want to stop the violence. Maybe our long-standing positions were really someone else's soapbox anyway, and not really what we wanted deep down. I remember back when I was kind of a diehard Republican, and I uh, wanted to support the NRA because that seemed like the thing to do. When I started getting their literature, I realized uh, they were really more about selling guns for their advertisers than they were about gun safety or hunter safety or anything like that. Maybe it was somebody else's soapbox that you've adopted as we went through this process. And maybe it's time to just stand up and say, I want to do what I can to help stop the violence, to keep us from going to war, and to keep us from owning so many guns that 18-year-olds can buy them on their birthday and shoot up a school. We can be a good American and also stand up to the violence that some even condone within religion. Um, if I ever see another um, AR-15 handed out at a church service, I don't. I think I'm going to go nuts. That I can't imagine that's what Jesus ever wanted when he disarmed his disciples. It's time. It's time, folks. It's time to be the change. I believe in you. I believe if I can change my beliefs and stand up to those that would not be my friends anymore because I changed my beliefs. If I can do that, you can. I believe in you. Uh, as always, I encourage you to be where you are, be who you are, and be at peace. Stand up to the violence. Let's stop it. We can. We know we can. Americans can do anything. I believe my grandpa's with us on this. On Memorial Day, let's make a vow that we're going to stand up to violence. We're going to stop the violence, whatever it takes, whatever inconvenience it causes me. Let's stand up to it now.